Hey guys, welcome back to r/Nuclearrevenge. In this video, a Karen pushed a kid off a cliff and OP then went on a 5-year revenge trip. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, My husband is obsessed with her boss. I started this job about 1.5 years ago and I cannot say what it is because I want us to stay as anonymous as possible and our country is very small, so my boss would probably be recognized. The moment I started, I felt like I was in the right place. My boss, the owner of the company, is very cool and kind. She is self-made and she loves her job. She does a lot of the dirty work herself that bosses who have usually 30 to 35 employees would not have to do. But basically, she just loves it. On top of that, we have a 6-hour workday, our salaries are 20% higher than the market, and we have 7 paid vacation weeks a year. Her reasons? She appreciates us and she's getting richer anyway, and honestly, I was proud of working with a woman like her, so I wouldn't shut up talking about her to my husband. Especially in the beginning. My husband was as fascinated by her as I am, until he met her in a company party last Christmas. She must have been beautiful when she was young, she could have been a model. I think his fascination became a crush or an obsession or maybe worse, even love. Now, he follows her in SM, her accounts are private but he stalks her with my account. He also follows the company IG and likes every picture she is in. He asks about her all the time. She is a very private person, but when her divorce from her ex-husband was finalized in the beginning of this year, we all found out because he started showing up to work. He owned half her company now and he started to try to make changes in our work hours and salaries. We found out that her husband had cheated on her with a younger girl who he also tried to employ in our company. She still works with us. She, probably lawyers involved, eventually convinced her husband to sell her back his share. We are still in this process now. My husband has followed all this and he was so sad for her and so angry. How could anyone do this when they had a woman like her? If it was him, he would cherish her, love her, blah blah blah. Who leaves a woman for a girl? I got very angry and told him that all men prefer younger women if they could choose. He laughed at me and told me only losers do that. The last drop was last Friday. We were out for a movie night and we saw my boss with a young man. He looked like in his mid-20s. My husband lost it. He did not know that she dated younger men. He wanted us to go say hello, but I refused and yelled at him to control himself because he looked pathetic. When we got home, he was frenetically going through her SM until he found the guy and he sighed in relief. The guy was her nephew and we did not see the whole company, but they were out with other family members. My husband was so happy, like a weight lifted off his chest. I lost it on him. I started crying and yelling and told him that he was in love with her and he was shocked when I pushed and kicked him out of our bedroom. I locked the door, he stood outside trying to calm me down, telling me that he loved me and I'm his girl and always will be. Then he said something that ruined me even further. It's not like someone like her would look my way. I have not slept since then. Why is he feeling like this? Is it love? Infatuation? She's too old for my husband, so what is it? And why would he think that he could not have her? He's very handsome and still young. She should feel lucky that a young handsome man likes her. And does he mean I'm less than her to accept him? Or is it purely her money and status? He refuses to admit anything. What can I do now? I love this job, I love the benefits. Thanks to this job our life has improved and we can afford more than just the necessities. I'm honestly starting to hate my boss though, and I hate myself for idolizing her in front of my husband. Sorry, this is getting even longer, but I've spoken to my mom, sister, granny and some friends about this. And about what happened last Friday, and they all think I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Update to the story. Hi, I'm in so much pain, I don't know what to do. I don't want to do something stupid while hurting. I got a lot of good advice last time I was here, so I don't know, maybe you can help me with this too. So I went against my family and friends and asked my husband for a separation. I felt like my heart couldn't take it anymore. My intuition told me that my husband was not all mine. This was shortly after the event at the movies. My husband was in total confusion. He said that I was making a mistake, making a mountain out of a molehill, but he moved in with his brother however. We decided to start couple counseling too. It went well the first 3 weeks or so, but my husband became more and more reluctant to participate and sometimes he just cancelled on me last second. He stopped showing up this month and he also stopped calling and texting me. I was even more heartbroken, but it just solidified that my intuition was right and that I was doing the right thing, seeing that he's not interested in working on us anymore. I chose not to quit my job though. I still loved it with all the heartbreak and I really needed the benefits, like I'm the only one I know who's having a 3 weeks paid vacation around Christmas and New Year. I never see my boss anyway, and she does not even know of my existence. My husband eventually stopped being active on Instagram, and I thought it was normal because we were going through adversities, uni yesterday when his brother shared my husband's story of the night. My husband was in a restaurant holding a woman's hand. I could only see her hand, so my husband has just blocked me now and my family and friends from seeing his updates. I commented, "What the hell?" And this morning my husband called me for the first time in months, totally scared, and started begging, "Please don't ruin this for me, please don't ruin it." I told him, "What do you mean?" He said, "Don't tell her about us." I never made the connection at first, it never even crossed my mind. That woman in the picture was my boss. I started crying and screaming at him, "How could you do this to me? How could you tell me that it was all in my head when it's obviously all over your Instagram?" He said it just happened. I dumped him and he was single and just happened to find her on Bumble. He begged me not to ruin this for him. She knows that he's in the process of a divorce, but she doesn't know that he already knew who she was or that she was the boss of his soon-to-be ex. They've been seeing each other for 6 weeks, about 2 weeks after I asked him to move, and it's getting serious. He begged for a good 5 minutes, telling me how he has not been this happy in all his life and that I should not ruin his happiness since, again, I was the one who apparently ended our marriage. I have been crying since this morning. I don't know what to do. I want to ruin him and his happiness, but I don't know if I have any right to do that, and I'm so worried about losing my job. Please help. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you would have been in this unfortunate situation, what would you have done? Would you have tried to ruin his so-called happiness? Or would you be too worried about losing your job? Let me know in the comments. Edit for new information. Okay, my husband has been calling me non-stop and I've now answered him. He is panicking about me telling her everything, so he begged me to give him the chance to tell her himself. His words were that I never stalked her or creeped on her, I just fell for her and was scared that she would think I was creepy since you thought the same. He said, "Give me a chance to tell her the truth in my own pace, so at least she doesn't think that I'm a liar or a freak like you seem to think." He still swears that they matched on Bumble. I didn't know what that is until now, but it's like Tinder, right? I'm just devastated right now. He has no regards for me and my feelings. Everything he's thinking of is not to scare her away. When I told him this, he said that I was the one who left him. People fall out of love and that's okay, and no one's fault, and that I was in the right for ending the relationship, but I was the one who ended it all the same. Don't hurt us, and I promise to give you everything you want. She is happy with me, so don't hurt us. That is what he said. Now we have a final update to the story, and it reads like this. So I talked to my boss yesterday, Monday, after lunch. I told her everything, basically how I was so happy that I found this job, how I looked up to her and was proud to be working for someone like her, and that this rubbed off on my husband, who grew more obsessed with her each and every day. I apologized for using obsessed because I didn't know how things were between them, but that is how I perceived his feelings. I told her about the day at the movie and how it basically made me realize that our issues were greater than I thought. I told her that I know and accept that my marriage is over and that my husband did not love me anymore, and that the reason I'm telling her now is not to judge or blame her, but to let her know the whole story, because it's just fair that she knows that he has been following her life for over a year now. Because from what I understood from my husband, you are under the impression that you just matched with him on a dating app, I said. She was silent the whole time I was talking, just listening to me until I mentioned the dating app, and that is when she interrupted me. "That's not how we met. He has been a patron at my gym for the past 6 months, maybe a year," she said. I know her gym, it's the one across from our workplace. She works out there every morning before coming to work. I did not know that he had joined it because I knew him to be a member at the gym near our home. He has been, without telling me, working out just across the street from me every morning without telling me. She looked like how I felt, absolutely shocked. I apologized and told her that he has kept dating her a secret from me and that he begged me not to talk to her, telling me that he has not been this happy and so on. She didn't say much, just thanked me for telling her, and today she asked if she could talk to me. She apologized for everything that happened to me and asked if I needed any help. I said no, she thanked me again, and when I got home, my husband was there. He had called me at least 50 times, but my phone was on silent. He was crying, calling me bitter and vindictive and pathetic. He said I ruined his relationship and future. She is scared of him now, and it's all my fault. He wants me to tell her that he is not dangerous, nor is he a pervert. He wants me to tell her that I was the one who wanted a divorce and that people fall out and in love, and it's nobody's fault, and neither is it creepy. He has not done anything wrong, he stayed faithful to me and would have stayed that way if it didn't kick him out. He asked me if I ever felt unsafe with him to make rumors about him being a stalker and a creep, and I should tell the truth. I asked him to leave and that I'm starting the divorce, and from now on he could only contact me once I got a lawyer through them. I have been crying since he left. We have not seen each other for weeks and he had no feelings whatsoever for me. He looked demented and full of sorrow like a broken little boy. How could he change this fast? Before we separated, he held me and begged me to believe him and his love for me. Was it all a lie? My whole entire relationship? And yeah, Ripe Stars, unfortunately that's the last update to the story. I'm glad that OP initiated the divorce, I think that's the best thing to do here. And yeah, not every story has a happy ending. Anyway, let's move on to the title story, which is an absolutely XXL story, and it's titled Karen pushed my kid off a cliff and my kid ended up disabled in a wheelchair during vacation in Thailand. I was on a vacation with my wife and son to Thailand. He was 8 years old and it was the big first exciting trip he had ever been on. A lot of kids might be upset about the very different culture and food and everything, but not Tyler. He loved every second and was constantly moving his head around to not miss a single moment. A few days into our trip, we heard about this cliff with a really great view. My wife and I loved hiking, but with a kid we knew this was perfect since the cliff was smaller and more manageable for a casual thing. At the top we were taking pictures and my son was right up against the railing, looking out at everything. We were taking pictures of him as he made a ton of different faces and poses. Karen was also visiting Thailand and wanted to see the view. She had been making comments under her breath the entire time we were all going up about the various kids around, saying how kids made too much noise and should not be on vacation. Instead of asking Tyler to move or even being rude about it, she pushed him out of her way, right over the railing and off of the cliff. The fear that we felt the moment we saw our son just gone is something I can never explain. It felt like time both froze and also went faster than ever before. Everybody around us was going crazy and calling for police and help. We looked over the edge but didn't see him, so we ran as fast as we could to the bottom to try and see if we could find him. We were both just hysterical the entire time, and when we got to the bottom, we found him. At first we really thought that he might be dead, but we found a pulse on him and soon help was on the way. He fell down a long way, but had his fall broken several times by uneven ground, where he would just roll on dirt before falling even more. The fact that he lived at all was a complete miracle. They had to put him on a helicopter and rush him to a hospital. They told us to be very thankful that he was alive, but initially, testing looked like he was gonna have some deficits to say the least. The extent just wouldn't be clear right away, as he had to start healing and getting more testing. Half of which was done in Thailand, and then once he was stable to bring home, the rest was done here in the United States. By the time we finished with testing and prognosis and scans and everything else, it was clear that he was never going to be able to walk again. He would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. What hurt us more than hearing that news was just seeing his entire personality change. He was not the same Tyler who would laugh and play and joke around, he was just an empty shell of what he was before. The fall also caused some educational delays and he was frustrated that he was not the same, and even at 8 years old he knew it. After the shock and emotions of what happened, I felt something else growing in me. With hot rage that I couldn't get rid of no matter how hard I tried. So this woman had ruined my son's life and never got punished for it. We told the police in Thailand what she looked like while we were waiting for the helicopter, but she must have slipped away. I felt like there was nothing I could do until I remembered that we never did develop the photos from that trip. We had used an actual camera, which was more common at that point in time. Phone cameras were not as sophisticated as they are now. When I got the photos printed and saw Tyler, it broke my heart all over again, but then one picture caught my eye. One of the last ones we took with Tyler on the cliff, and a woman in the frame fully visible. It was Karen. I spent a few years getting every private detective I could afford to use that photo to try and find Karen. To scour social media, employment records, and anything else. And well, when all you have is a picture though, you can get a lot of false hope. They would find a person that seemed to match, only to find out that they matched with an old photo of somebody in their 80s or being dead before the trip happened. Sometimes fitting, but no history of the trip existing. But finally, after years and tens of thousands of dollars spent, I found Karen. I had years of built-up emotions and scenarios in my head about how I was gonna get revenge. To go up to her and tell her off in her face or even getting violent. As time passed, my ideas got a little more fine-tuned and by the time I found her, decided that I wanted to destroy her life. She had destroyed my sons and it was what she deserved. I got so much information on this woman that it's kind of scary. I was able to get into her social media, find out about her job, her spouse, her friends. I picked out everything good that I could use against her and started my plan. I did not want to do everything fast either, instead slowly drawn out so she could not put the pieces back together and instead think that she was going crazy. To start, I destroyed her marriage from the inside out. Looking at private pages, it was clear that she was not faithful to her husband, and I could use that against her. I created a fake profile of a rich man that seemed very interested in her, luring her in and saving everything that she was saying, while at the same time getting even more personal information out of her directly. It was actually doing this that I found out that she was a Karen because of how she would talk and complain about everything and everybody. She was entitled, which just fueled me more into what I was doing. Once I had enough, I was able to send the entire conversation right to her husband, highlighting messages where she admitted to cheating on him several times and insulting him, with her flat out saying that she stays with him for the money and another man with more could easily make her leave. My guess was that he was furious because I got to see her address change from the nice house to a dumpy place. A public record of the divorce making me so happy that I could have hung it on my wall. But I was not even close to being done. I backed off for about a year and a half, doing small things like signing up every new email she got with spam, signing her address up to receive pop-ins from Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, just random small things that would slowly wear away at her sanity. My next big move though was ruining her job. She worked as a desk clerk for one of the biggest law offices in her city. Again, using social media, I was able to grab some not so nice things she said about the place she worked for and her bosses, and then forwarded it to the entire staff anonymously, letting the next day she went in being her last at that office. Then I used some SEO to make sure that anybody looking her up for a potential job would get results of her history and the tweets themselves. Again, I went on a bit of a break, slowing down and just watching her life unravel. She seemed to be going from job to job, all of them low paying and overall bad. At this point, it was almost 5 years since I started ruining her life and decided that I needed to go in for some kind of grand finale. My last bit of nuclear revenge was gonna be the worst one of all. I'd known where she was this entire time, but I never went to her state. That changed for this last act of things when I decided to travel 2 states away just to cut her car's brake cables. It was an old crappy car that I was surprised still ran. The brakes going out would easily be seen as just a car being old and probably not it being tampered with. I waited for a detective I hired to tell me the news that something happened to her. He did not know that I had anything to do with it, he was just reporting anything major that happened regarding Karen to me. She was apparently driving way too fast and managed to drive right into a tree. After her brakes failed, she swerved right into it. What I couldn't have predicted was the irony of what happened to her. So I guess her seat didn't lock into place or something. Great, because when she crashed, the airbags went off and her seat went all the way forward. Her legs got crushed and now she was paralyzed just like my son. About half a year after I went back and decided that it was finally time to introduce myself to Karen and tell her everything that I did. I wanted her to know why her life was ruined instead of getting to believe that she was unlucky or all of these things just happened. She was miserable and I wanted to see it in her eyes when I told her what I did. I went over and knocked on her door and heard her tell me to come inside. Me, hello again. Karen, again? Do I know you? Me, probably not. You should know who I am since you ruined the life of my entire family. Karen, what are you talking about? Do you remember about 8 years ago taking a trip to Thailand? Karen, yes? Me, you pushed a kid right off a cliff. You ruined his entire life. And well, that kid was my son and you ruined my life and my wife's life. Karen, he lived? Her face turned a little bit pale as she realized the truth of what was going on. Me, he was 8 years old and told me that he was never going to walk again. That his brain would never work the exact same way again, all because you felt entitled and pushed him off of a cliff. Only to run away from the entire thing. Karen, what are you gonna do? Sue me after all of these years? I have no money and I'm stuck in a wheelchair of my own. No jury is going to find my guilt with no evidence. You should have left the kid at home or at the hotel. Me, I don't need to sue you. I think you have gotten more suffering than a prison would have ever given you anyway. Your husband learning about your secret affairs, your tweets getting you out at work. Karen, are you stalking me? How the hell do you know all those things? Me, I didn't just find you. I found you years ago and I wanted to make you suffer. Every single time that something bad happened and you thought you were going crazy, it was me. The moment your life spiraled down, it was because I made it happen. Karen, and the brakes on my car? You wanted me crippled like your son? Me, I did not know you would end up paralyzed, but I won't lie and say that I don't enjoy the irony of it. Karen, I'm gonna sue you. Me, you just said that no jury will convict without evidence, and I have an alibi. Hell, even if one day you can prove something and put me in jail, I would still be happy. Because now you get to spend every single day struggling just as much as my son has. Telling Karen off felt like a rock that had been sitting on my stomach getting removed, getting the revenge on her and then finally confronting her after all of these years. The nights that I didn't sleep worried about Tyler, or the days that I would watch him sit in his room and not want to do anything. It was over, and while it took a lot of money and time, I did not feel like any of it was a waste. I knew legal justice was never gonna happen, so I took matters into my own hands. I went back home and started to put Karen out of my mind like it was a chapter I was done with and ready to move on with other things. To watch Tyler, who's now 16, try and finish high school. He's actually gonna graduate this year as of typing the story out. He never was the same Tyler again, but at least he grew into a man that I was proud of. Aside from myself, the only person that knows what I did was my wife. We decided it was best that Tyler didn't know if we found her or everything that I did to her. He put the incident in the past years ago, and bringing it up might only cause him even more pain. I had always been a kind of resourceful person who could get answers and solve problems in a logical way. I think when you're a parent, something turns on inside of you once the kid is born. The just primal desire to protect them and kill any other animal that tries to attack. That was what went off in me, but since my nature as a person didn't change, I went for the decision of nuclear revenge over a long period of time. I know this story might be long, so I appreciate it if you managed to stick around for the entire thing. It's harder than it looks to condense almost 5 years into just one single story on the internet. I would have liked to put more details, but I condensed it the best that I could. I hope that you all enjoyed what I did and how Karen got what she deserved. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.